Alright, good evening folks, it's Enforcer Matt and welcome back to another Short War video, and today we have very big news out of Ukraine, Russia, and the Middle East. But by far our biggest piece of news of the day is coming out of Yemen, as we have seen the Israelis conduct massive airstrikes on Yemen, striking multiple different targets, including the Sana'a International Airport, which has completely been destroyed according to recent reports, and we've also seen multiple power plants and a concrete factory be completely flattened by these Israeli airstrikes. We've also seen that out of Ukraine and Russia, Ukraine's launched even more massive drone attacks on mainland Russia, and also about 9 kilometers away from the border of Ukraine near Kursk, we are seeing the Russians evacuate an entire district to prepare for a Ukraine invasion in that area. We've also gotten word as well that Kadyrov, who's the Chechen dictator, is currently asking Putin to resign from his post immediately and leave the position ASAP for some unknown reason. We've also heard that out of India and Pakistan is saying that they are not allowed to exist as a country and are attacked by India, then they will not let that go unanswered, and also they're not going to let any country on the planet survive if they can't be allowed to survive themselves. So crazy words coming out of Pakistan. But jumping into our first post here, this one is going to go to World Source News 24/7. And I would say this is our biggest story of the day right now. Currently, we have seen massive Israeli airstrikes on Yemen, and we've heard from the Israeli media that the army has bombed the passenger terminal, also civilian aircraft and service facilities at the Sana'a International Airport inside of Yemen. And this is their largest airport in Yemen and a very crucial one, and right now it has been hit directly by the Israeli forces with airstrikes. So let's take a look at our first video here and see what we can find with the damage. And there it is, the first major strike of the Israeli forces right there on the Sana'a International Airport, and that is what we're currently looking at right now. That was a major explosive being dropped right on the international airport, as we can see right here in the footage, and that is a very, very large hit. As you can see, all the smoke rising from the airport, and it looks like there had already been another hit at some point on another part of the airport. So we can see that right here in this footage, and it appears to be a very, very large attack, as we can see right here. But with that, we're now jumping into our next news article here, and this one is going to actually be a Google map showing the location of this international airport in Yemen. And as you can see right here on the map, there is the Sana'a International Airport. This is the runway and also the terminals, as you can see right here on the Google map. And zooming out here, you can actually see the location of it in relation to the rest of Yemen, and it is toward the western side of the country compared to the rest of it. So you can also see over here on the left side of the screen, it is now permanently closed according to Google, and the bad reviews are pouring in right now. As we can see, the newest reviews say a 1-star review out of 5. That's a terrible review. It says 2 hours ago, the airport's undergoing major renovation by the Israeli Air Force on today. So it looks like they're getting terrible reviews, and also the airport is closed down for business as a result of these Israeli renovations. So we are seeing that today, and that is the location of the airport, as you see right here on Google Maps. But moving on to our next post here, this one is going to go to open source intel. And in this post right here, we have a closer up angle of the explosions, of the initial explosions at the Sana'a International Airport when the Israelis started airstriking it. So let's take a look at this closer footage and see what we can spot. And there it is, the exact moment of impact right there on camera. There you can see it, a massive fireball going up in the sky and a ton of debris falling down below it. And you can see right here that the people are shocked on the streets to see that the response by the Israelis to the attack on their airport ended up being the complete destruction of the Sana'a Yemen airport. So that was a hell of a response by Israel, I must say, a very extreme response, and it looks like it's definitely caught the attention of the forces inside of Yemen. So we do see that right there. But jumping into our next post here, this one is going to go to open source intel yet again. And based on the reports we've seen so far, it looks like the entire international airport was struck by multiple airstrikes and it's destroyed and flattened the entire place. And so far, that is what we're hearing. And here is a photo showing all the different strikes across the entire airport. You see multiple different points of impact based on the smoke plumes here, and you can see that right there on the photo. We also got more confirmation in this post, which goes to Geo Insider. And apparently Sky News Arabia backs up the reports that all planes on the ground at Sana'a International Airport, as well as the entire airport terminal, were destroyed, at least reportedly, by the Israeli Air Force. So once again, a very big piece of news right there, and we have more confirmation that apparently the entire place was leveled, including the planes themselves that were on the ground. So very, very big events right there. But jumping into our next post here, this one goes to open source intel as well. And the international airport was not the only place that was struck very heavily by the Israelis. We've also seen fresh footage showing the Israeli strikes on a cement factory in Bajil inside of Yemen, and this is a massive factory for the Yemeni rebels and a heavy blow to their entire manufacturing. So let's take a look at this video and see the cement factory also going up in flames. And there you have it, massive explosions right over there in the distance. You can see the cement factory right there that was reportedly used by the Yemeni rebels to manufacture things. And as you can see, another major hit right there as the entire place was coming down to the ground. So crazy to see that, by the way, massive strikes by the Israelis. And all of this is in response to the attacks by the Yemeni rebels on Israel just about 2 days ago. So Israel responded with a lot more force than the Yemeni rebels did. And it looks like it is definitely being heard and seen by pretty much everybody around the world. So very big hits indeed. But jumping into our next post here, this one's going to go to Elant News. And just to recap all the hits by the Israeli Air Force over the last couple of hours, the locations that were struck and destroyed include the Sana International Airport, which we looked at the very first part of the video, also 2 power stations and that cement factory that we just saw in the last video. So multiple different very important places hit, and once again a list showing you every single one of them that was allegedly destroyed. So with that, it's now time to move on to our next article here, which goes to the Kyiv Independent. And it's now time to move away from our Israel news and onto our Russia and Ukraine news, which we have extremely large news coming out of that front as well today. And we are hearing a piece of bombshell information today that Kadyrov, who's the dictator of the Chechen Republic, has now formally asked Putin to resign as the head of the Chechen Republic. And he says that he hopes his request will be supported by the dictator Putin himself. So this is a very big move right here. It's unclear why Kadyrov is asking to resign, but it seems to be very sudden and also very dramatic, indicating that maybe something was happening in the background to cause him to suddenly leave his post, but he's hoping to be able to be allowed to resign. So this is quite a big shift right here, and it looks like that Kadyrov might be about to leave his post completely. So this is a big move. Kadyrov's been a staple of the Chechen Republic for quite some time, and also a very bad menace in the Ukraine war as well, with his people joining the war effort against Ukraine. So very serious indeed, and also we'll be watching that one closely to see if Putin allows him to actually go ahead and resign. But jumping into our next post here, this one goes to War Translated. And not only is Ramzan Kadyrov fleeing like a rat, but also the other Russian soldiers are fleeing like rats too, because the drones paid another unexpected visit to Russia last night in the Lipetsk, Ryazan, Tula, Tambov, and Moscow regions. All of them were hit last night by Ukraine, and they were all part of the uninvited tour of the drones. And the situation got so exciting that 13 airports had to hit pause, meaning all the flights were canceled. Meanwhile, the Russian Ministry of Defense proudly claims that it heroically shot down 100 drones, because of course everything is always under control in the Russian Federation. But not really though. Plot twist, it was not under control, and we do have video here showing the drones flying in and also going straight to the target. So let's take a look at the video and see the Russians fully under control. You can't see anything because of the street light, he says. Oh, and you really can't see anything, but you can sure hear it. And yes, it's flying low. It's a mosquito. It's coming in. It's very, very angry, very mad mosquito. And here's another one. He's filming on his, looks like his iPhone, even though he hates the West. He said, it's a damn fly. Oh yeah, it's the 4th. Mini flies coming in tonight. And you can barely hear this one out in the distance, but it is flying in right here on the camera. And it's picking up speed a little bit. And this is pretty much status quo for last night, because this was just a couple of videos showing multiple different areas being struck, or not at least struck, but at least the drones flying over. And this was one of the videos showing that. But it was many, many different regions last night, and a lot of damage as a result of that attack. But with that, we're now jumping into our next article here, and this one goes to Null Reports. And if you thought the Ukrainians were done with a nighttime attack, they also continued into the daytime as well, because Ukrainian drones were also spotted very much later in the daytime over Russia's oil region. And we do have video of that as well, of it looks like by Raptors and maybe some other types of drones flying right into Russian territory and going in very strong. So let's take a look at our first video. Yep, and there you have it. That appears to be probably a Bayraktar drone, probably most likely it looks like one, and it is flying right over Russia's oil region and heading right to a target. So that is our first video. Let's take a look at our second. And there you have it. This is a very short video. You just get a little flash of the drone flying right over right there. Just a little glimpse of it. It was streaking across the sky. And as you can see, flying right over their heads. And the Russians were filming it to their own dismay that the Russian air defense that they claim is always working was not working yet again. It's kind of like the McDonald's ice cream machine at this point, or the legend of it. But anyways, we are now jumping away from this one and jumping into our next post here, which goes to OSINT Technical. And also, would you be shocked to know that the Ukrainians also shot down a ton of stuff over the Black Sea last night? And overnight, we did learn that Ukraine's Navy engaged in a major air defense engagement over the northwest Black Sea, shooting down a number of Russian Shahed attack drones with shipborne L-3 Harris Vampire surface-to-air missile systems. So another victory, this time in the Black Sea, by the Ukrainian Navy of all things. And we do have this on camera to show you the Vampire in action and shooting down multiple different Shahed drones fired from Russia. So let's take a look at this one. And sadly, I can't play the audio because there is some music, but as you can see, here's the Vampire system smacking multiple Shahed drones right here on camera, and this is a very good and potent system that is equipped on Ukrainian ships, and it looks like in the northwest Black Sea, it is going down quite badly for the Russians, and the Shaheds were not even able to make it to its target. So we can see that right here. It looks like a big win by Ukraine yet again, by the Ukrainian Navy this time, so very good to see. But jumping into our next post here, this one goes to Max 24. And I must admit that when it comes to Russian news, it's not a good day for them today, because we've also heard that in Russia's Kursk region, the village of Glushkovo, located on the border with Ukraine, is being evacuated by the Russians due to the complicated situation, according to Astra. So it looks like, even though the Russians claim to have expelled the Ukrainians from Kursk, they are now evacuating a village about 9 kilometers away from the border in Glushkovo, because apparently it's complicated. But what's really not complicated, though, is the Ukrainians are still there. That's pretty simple, actually, but it must be complicated for those Russians. But just giving you a map here, this goes to Paul Healy that provided the map. We can see that the border of Ukraine is right down here at the bottom part of the screen, and right up there at the top you can see Glushkovo, and that is about 9 kilometers into Russian territory that is currently being evacuated due to the Ukrainians getting very close to it. So the Ukrainians are still fighting there, and they are not expelled, and once again that disproves Putin's statements as lies yet again. What a shocker. But moving into our next post here, this one goes to Max 24 once again. And in this post right here, the bad news continues for Russia, because in Makhchala, which is in Dagestan, and I know I'm butchering the name by the way, so I'll just simply say Dagestan, some unknown assailants with guns attacked the security forces of Russia, and 3 police officers were eliminated, and one of the attackers was also eliminated too. So we do have video of this crazy shootout between these two forces here, and once again, it appears to be some dissent within Dagestan toward the Russians. So let's take a look and see what this little small rebellion looked like against the police. And you can see there's the police. Oh, and there's some fire. There went a policeman scurrying off behind his truck. And you can hear small arms fire right there as well, as this civilian sort of like nonchalantly filming. And here it is restarting once more, but take a look at this. Look. That policeman has literally got shot at by some Russians in Dagestan and had to take off running. That is insane. Crazy footage. I guess that's a normal day in Dagestan, according to some people that have said so, but really crazy to me. That's wild footage right there coming out of Dagestan, showing some small rebellion against the Russians. But nonetheless, it's now time to move on to our next news article here, and this one goes to Inside Geopolitics. And we have yet even more bad news for Russia, because we get an update today about Russia's Victory Day parade, which is not being attended by Putin, by the way, because Putin said he's scared to show up. So we're learning today that Russia has deployed hundreds of air defense units in Moscow to protect their city and dignitaries at the military parade on May 8th. And of course, even though it's being protected, apparently it's not good enough for Putin because he's not showing up, but he's going to put Xi Jinping out there to be the guinea pig, apparently. So today, Russia also announced it's canceling its Victory Day parade in Crimea, which is a separate one, due to security concerns as well. And across Russia, their emergency alert system warned of mobile internet restrictions from May 5th to the 9th due to the tightened security. So apparently, they only have enough air defense to protect the Moscow Victory Day parade, and the reason why they've canceled the Crimean one is because they don't have enough air defense to protect that one properly. And of course, that would be an easier target for Ukraine because it's a lot closer to their territory, but it looks like one of them has been canceled, but the main one is still on, so we'll have to wait and see what happens on that date. But with that, it's now time to move into our next post here, and this one is going to go to Nexta. And we're learning that Russia is building a stage and installing massive screens on its side of the Narva River pointed directly at Estonia to blast its May 9th Victory Day narrative across the border at the NATO country. And it's not a celebration, but they say from Nexta, it's a performance of militarism aimed at Europe, but apparently the authorities could also in Estonia point their own screens back at them in response if they wanted to, but we are seeing right now the Russians are apparently putting on a show for the Estonians and blasting propaganda across the border. So let's take a look at the video and show you these massive screens that the Russians have set up. So there you can see it. This is the Narva River, and looking right over from Estonia, we're looking into Russia right here. There are screens pointing literally right at Estonia, right on the border. So it's clear what the Russians are doing by this. They're trying to pull off like a North Korean style propaganda scheme where they're blasting stuff across the border, just like the South Koreans do to North Korea. It looks like it's starting to happen between Russia and Estonia, which is a NATO country. So we're seeing that right here. And once again, more propaganda efforts by the Russians to try to scare people and brainwash people as well. So we're seeing that right here on camera. camera. Very desperate indeed. But jumping into our next post here, this one goes to Inside Geopolitics. And we're also getting some very disturbing news out of the UK today, because we've heard from the UK government that they are preparing for a direct military attack by Russia, and officials have been asked to update 20-year-old contingency plans that will include conventional missile, nuclear, and cyber attacks, and the quote-unquote Homeland Defense Plan will set out a strategy for the days immediately after a Russian strike, and officials have urged the government to build its own Iron Dome system, according to the Telegraph. So it looks like the UK is once again feeling directly threatened by Russia because of recent statements they've made and also the aggressive actions that Russia's taking toward Europe, and they are trying to update their contingency plans to be ready to basically defend their entire country if Russia does indeed follow through with this attack that they feel is coming very soon. So this is quite severe. This is not to be understated whatsoever. This is apparently indicating the UK has intelligence that Russia is once again strongly considering moving against Europe and also the UK in the recent maybe couple of months or maybe even years. But very big news from Inside Geopolitics. And with that, it's now time to move on to our next article here, and this one is going to go to World Source News 24/7. And it's now time to cover our India and Pakistan news, and today we've gotten some insane statements out of Pakistan. Like, I'm having a hard time even believing these statements, but so far we are hearing that the Pakistan defense minister said today that if India attacks and Pakistan's existence is threatened, nobody will survive, and we won't let any other country live on this planet either. And yes, you heard that correct. Those are insane words coming out of the Pakistan defense minister, and the guy must have the intelligence of a fruit fly, because of course, if you're saying that no country on the planet is going to live if Pakistan can't live, then that's basically telling your allies to take a hike and screw off, basically. So I'm not sure what this guy is up to by making a statement like that, but that is insane to say something like that. And once again, Pakistan is just losing their minds at this point, along with India to a certain degree, but Pakistan is truly losing their minds. But moving on to our next post here, this one goes to Open Source Intel once again. And this post right here reveals the reason the Pakistan defense minister might be losing his mind, because we're hearing today from the Prime Minister of India, which is Modi, that he says that the water, once allowed to leave India, will now be fully secured and used for India's own needs, which means basically they are not giving any more water to Pakistan, and if they can cut it off, they're going to cut off every flow possible to Pakistan until the reservoirs start overflowing, and they have to let some out. So it sounds like the water wars are officially in full swing. Modi is not letting the water go to Pakistan, and Pakistan is now going nuclear and berserk over this whole situation, and not only threatening India, but threatening the entire world over those. So I've never seen a response quite like that to an issue between two countries, that the entire world gets threatened as a result of it. But as you can see, it looks like Pakistan has crossed that bridge for the first time ever. So that is a huge story out of that region. But with that, folks, that is actually our last piece of news for the day. But before you go, smack that like button and also subscribe to the channel as well if you already haven't, for more daily war updates just like this one. And also, by the way, if you want to, go down to the comments below and let us know you watched the video to this point, and put down there Pakistan to let us know you watched the video to this point and you heard the crazy statements coming out of Pakistan. Put the word Pakistan in the comments and let us know you watched to this point. Also, by the way, if you want to support the channel financially, you can do so on our Patreon page, and the link is in the description below for Patreon, where you can go over there and sign up for a monthly membership and support the channel in a very big way that way. And once again, like we always say, huge shout out to our Patreon supporters for always making these videos possible, and we appreciate your support very much. And with that, folks, we'll see you all tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern on our next nightly war news stream. And with that, bye bye for now.